you ready?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Weeb Club, episode 36. 36 is both the square of a 6 and a triangular number. It's also the atomic number of Krypton, so maybe we should have done the superheroes episode this time.
Oh,
it also holds a special significance in Jewish tradition. I don't know how, but I decided to look up 36 because I didn't have anything interesting to say for it this time.
Sad.
Comments.
Yay. Last episode was the superhero episode. Crafts, do you have any comments?
Yeah, a couple. What?
Don't we have to look at the EWV first?
We did that last week, didn't we?
We did do that last week. Ignore him.
I mean, if you have more comments you want to respond to, that's fine.
Okay. Yeah, never mind.
There was actually a good one. I forget who said it. It'll be in the video. There was someone who pointed out that Arcada. There's a part in the video that Arcada mentions how Tanjiro doesn't, he's suffered a lot, but he's not suffer scaling, I guess. But then he proceeds to suffer scale. Tanjiro suffered so much. Look at all the ways he suffered, but he's not suffers. Judging his suffering against others, which is good. It's but you're literally doing that. So I saw that after the episode was recorded. So yeah, but anyway, Brandon Christopher mentions how and I guess it kind of expands off something you were talking about last time, Vindy, with because you mentioned how the westerns are kind of one thing, but superheroes can do really different stuff.
I actually really like that comment. I think it's really sick.
And I was even thinking about it where especially with the Disney Plus shows, where here you have MCU stuff that's important to the MCU, but they are able to be more wild with it, I would say. I don't see stuff like Loki or WandaVision working in a film for various reasons, but and I don't know, it's cool. You got Loki's weird time travel shit. You got WandaVision doing the the series and referencing these TV series, and a Moon Knight I'm actually really curious about still, more so now that an actual trailer has released.
I want to kiss Oscar Isaac on his little mouth, dude.
No, at first because the teaser the 40-second teaser was a bit darker, where the full-on trailer had a bit more humor, but I did rewatch the trailer and
Vindy's
I was
grandma, is that you?
Sorry. No, I guess I should have said this at the start of the episode. I guess I should have waited for YouTube. I have COVID, so I'm sick.
Yeah, Vindy's literally dying in front of us as we record.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Can you die a little quieter, please? Gosh.
I'm sorry. I'm trying not to cough.
Holy shit.
Look, I'm still sick. I thought I was fine, but I've been with a big fucking hoodie on my couch all day, laying down. I'm sitting down at my computer. It's I'm starting to get cold. I have my blanket wrapped up over me. It's a problem. It's fine. I'm good to record.
But no, yeah, even Invincible is feels a little bit different than the MCU stuff, or The Boys, I'm sure, feels really different, right? So it's
yes.
There's and I'm not gonna say there's no variety in the Western, but I definitely feel there's probably more stuff, or in certain ways going on with superhero stuff right now. So yeah, good comment.
Very important question from Christina Walker. Who would win, the Incredible Hulk versus Buggy the Clown? I vote Buggy the Clown. I think it's Buggy 200% of the time. I think if you vote the Incredible Hulk, you're dog. As Titania put in a comment she made that I actually kind of like this version, dog shit stupid. So dog is one word and shit stupid is another word. I liked that. That was built diffy.
I like Guitar Skater's comment. Eternals is
Fuck
easily
you.
the best MCU film. People are so brain dead about it. Also, none is right. Rise of Skywalker is so good.
See, I hate this because
Rise
it's
of Skywalker is so good.
I have no opinion on the last part because I haven't watched Rise of Skywalker. the first one I personally disagree with, but the second one part I agree with. Like, I thought Eternals was fine, bottom half of the MCU for me, but I don't know, I'm gonna rewatch it again for the MCU rewatch, and I'll, it was fine, but I don't know. So, like, part of me is like, yay, someone who likes Eternals, but also it's fucking Guitar Skater, so it's like, oh.
What the fuck? Okay.
No, it's because
A comment from Matthias where he says, Vindy, the man who hasn't read more Gintama, backs away from comics for being too wordy. A sad but expected turn of events. Wow, this is funny. The reason that I stopped reading Gintama was not because it was too wordy. It was because I had literally just watched it, and so I couldn't read the manga without seeing the anime play in my head. And so I wanted to give it like a year or two to really like kind of let some of the anime like, stop being so front and center in my brain, so that when I read it, I could appreciate the manga as what it was, instead of just seeing the manga as like, well, it's not the anime.
Yeah. But also, Gabriel Wright Dune had a comment on Metroid Prime, and just pointed out some things about the, like, Illuminath and how they contrast, or, with the, like, join in with the Chozo and contrasting the Space Pirates, which I was like, okay, that makes sense. Because, I was more focusing on, like, that sort of, like, the Chozo being connected to nature and stuff, where the Space Pirates exploit nature, where I didn't, like, pick up on that as much in Metroid Prime 2, because I was more focused on the war stuff. So, I don't know, nice comment.
There were a lot about people, like, in their stuff with superheroes, and, like, them liking the MCU, or them having superhero fatigue, and I did like some of those. I thought Positive and Twisted Dan's both had good comments about that.
Yeah. Those were like, those are those comments that's like, they're neat, but nothing to add on to, but at least you mentioned them so I can put them up on screen. And the last one I have to actually respond to is Azure Writes on, we're just mentioning how, popular stuff tends to get like thrown on the bus or demonized. Even like he brought up how moe shows and cute girl shows were kind of like the devil to like lots of anime fans in the West, like 10 years ago, because like, oh, moe is killing mecha. Moe is, it's sucking away all the other things in the anime industry, but it's like, fuck off. That's not how it fucking works. They're good shows too. Like, shut the fuck up. And yeah, I have seen takes on Twitter where people just like literally like blame the MCU for everything, and it's just like so tiring, where it's like, that's just fucking stupid, like, and wrong. Shut up. And it's like, yeah.
Sad.
There was a comment from Kit where he said that the last weekly, I assume that means the weekly, the Everyone Has Bad Takes, said that it was a really good discussion, and that it definitely deserves a spot on the 3x3, which is, I'll take it.
Yeah. But I'm done with that. So, and that was the only episode we put out for the week, unfortunately, because there was some rendering issues with the video that would have come out on Friday. So the plan is to have that come out on Monday instead, and then there will be another video still on. So, well, you have already fucking seen it by now, hopefully. But then on Friday there will still be like the normal video that would have happened on Friday anyway. So
sad. So
anyway, on the Reddit, there's just a Bleach moment.
Yes. I mean, I mean, yeah, what do you think of this, man?
No comment.
He loves it.
All right, so this week, it's a little bit, I guess, or maybe it's on time, or it's delayed. We're doing the patron topic, which I have been busy, so I kind of forgot to do the poll until like a little later. But hey, it's happening. So, this topic is by Soul Bad Guy. He with the somewhat recent news of the Please Tell Me Galko-chan mangaka getting arrested for importing CSEM from Germany, I've been wondering about this separation from art and artist dilemma quite recently. So I guess he has I like this topic because there's like a few points of discussion to bring up. So I'll just go through them all real quick, and we'll just kind of go through them one by one, I guess. But have you ever had something that you like that now feels weird due to information about the author, like with Octage? Would you ever stop going back to a favorite if something came out and like or not continue it if it kept going, like Kenshin? How would you feel differently if media you came from a large company like Blizzard as opposed to a single small individual team like J.K. Rowling or various YouTubers? And yeah, so good topic. I'm surprised we haven't actually thought to bring it up as a topic.
I think I agree. It's a really sick topic.
Though there's actually quite a few like good patron topics, but I feel like if we just do them normally, then like, well, okay, that's one less thing for them to vote on later. So like it's weird when someone suggests something for a patron topic. I almost don't want to do it until it gets voted. But
right.
This, yeah, I know that's just but anyway. So yeah, I guess to start off with, I guess like what are some examples of stuff that you like that has had this? Because like I've heard of a lot of more stuff than I've actually consumed, I guess. Right? Like, I mean, I watched Galko-chan, but I don't have a significant like investment in it. I haven't touched it in years. So like that news, it's shitty, obviously, but it's not like here's this series that's super personal to me that like, oh, now I have to reconcile with the fact that the author's a piece of shit, right? Like that kind of thing.
Yeah, the biggest thing I could think would be just hold on, give me a second. Actually, someone else go. I got to deal with something. None.
I don't have anything like that, so I can't go.
Okay, like yeah, because one example, the obvious example for me is like, Harry Potter has been like because I read some of the books before the movies came out, and then the movies came out. My mom fell in love with them in particular, and it just kind of became a really big like thing in my family. And like we went to all the midnight book premieres. They were mostly me and my mom and my little brother. My dad didn't really go, but like he was like, "Fuck, you guys will finish with the book in a couple days, and I'll read it." Like he wasn't rushing. Like we got multiple copies of the books because no one, like I wasn't gonna wait.
Same thing with my family. Yeah,
right. Like I figured
everyone like the 4 people in my family who were current all got a copy. So we came home with 4 copies, and then everyone kind of found their own little spot in the house for the next like 2 days and sequestered off and just read the books.
I literally like both days. I literally like read I somehow read the entire Deathly Hallows in one day. Like I literally
because you read it because you go at midnight, right? You come home. And you read through like at least for me, I read through
a little bit at least.
I read through like the part where they go and like when like Hedwig dies, right, and Moody dies, and so then they end up at the Weasleys, and so I read like up to then that night, and then like the next day just read the whole thing like that next like day or day and a half.
Yeah, and I did that for the Half-Blood, not the Order of the Phoenix, because Order of the Phoenix was the one where I think we only got one book. And I was like, "Mom, finish it. I want to read it." And that was the fun when we got to Half-Blood Prince, so that we had to get multiple copies. And I went to a lot of the midnight movie premieres with my mom. I saw all of them in theaters. I'm pretty sure. Even my dad didn't like the changes they made in Prisoner of Azkaban and stuff, and but. In general, like, I haven't touched Harry Potter. Like, I've seen bits of the movies on TV and stuff, because, my mom or dad would turn it on sometimes, and but I haven't reread the books in so long. And, of course, the big things, like, J.K. Rowling's just been, like even before the transphobe TERF shit really came out, she was
There was a bunch of other shit.
Being a little cringe with, like, wizards shit themselves and vanished away the poop, and just, like, coming up with dumb fucking shit after the fact. Like there was whole memes about how like Hagrid's into autoerotic asphyxiation, and just like making fun of the fact that she just kept like adding these details.
Well,
like,
even
after
outside of that, I think that there's even before even the TERF shit, I think that you can look at like some problematic ideas she had trying to like almost push progressivity.
Progressiveness,
in Harry Potter, such as saying that werewolves were an allegory for HIV.
That's a little.
Which she said like a long time ago. It's like, oh, I didn't realize having HIV made you made you not in control of your actions and made you a psycho who killed people. But you do you, J.K. Rowling, I guess.
Yeah, that. I did forget about that one for good reason. Because at least the Dumbledore is gay one, I think maybe she pushed a little hard, but also like I have been thinking about just generally how like certain fiction like that, especially older stuff, might have had to like like Yuri on Ice, they don't actually like it's really funny that they basically get gay married, but they never like they still don't actually like say it necessarily. Like they don't say no homo. Like they don't say no homo, but they're not like it's that kind of I don't know. It's like and I've heard that, and I remember because people were mad about Yuri on Ice not going all the way with it, but then people who were into boys love and stuff were saying that this is just normal, and I was just thinking about how like okay then like so it not being direct, I guess, like, and maybe that, like, you could say, like, yeah, it's not as progressive it could be, like, even if, you do read Dumbledore is gay for, and being in love with Grindelwald, like, the fact that here she is trying to be progressive in literally the most popular book series in God knows, like, since the Bible, right? Like, holy shit.
Well,
and like
with
she like
stuff,
she could have done more. Is what, if she really values the progressiveness, like, why not be a bit more direct with it? Like, I'm not saying it's not there, and I haven't really read the books with that in mind. But I just like because I think, I don't know, it seems fair. But it's also like, she could have done more with that, especially if she's trying to be progressive, right?
And well, in the Dumbledore is gay stuff, it's not like that was like not even being said at the time. Like, people were saying it before books 6 and 7 came out, right? That they had a suspicion. She had hinted at it. I think with that, what I've seen upsets people the most is that I guess she like didn't say it. She never confirmed it while the books were out, but it was only like right after 7 came out and sold well that then like she came and was like, oh yeah, Dumbledore is gay. So then it just kind of comes off as she was too much of a coward to say it. In the book, even though right after she was okay with coming out and saying it, and most people agree that it was, that's something that most people agree was in her mind when she wrote the story. She meant that.
Yeah, okay,
like
gotcha.
that was clearly there because she had hinted at it and people were pretty sure of it before the series even wrapped up.
I was like, I was younger and I just read the books and then I heard that and I was like, oh, okay, I didn't think of it like that. So, and in right, so I wasn't even sure if it, but okay, yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, it's like, it definitely like, if she really cared about it, then, wouldn't she have fought for her? But again, like, her book was so popular, and of course, like, there's, she just didn't want to rock the boat. But, like, fucking, if you actually care about these things, then, fucking do it. And, like, so yeah, and I haven't gone back and revisited the series and tried to reconcile with the fact that author's kind of a piece of shit. And I do think, like, I was just thinking about, like, the way people, like, frame stuff from the books in, like, bad faith, like, oh, Hermione is an activist, but she's just treated like a joke. But I feel like by the end of the books, like, Ron actually treats the house elves like people, and, like, she's like, wait, shouldn't we save them? And Hermione basically fucks him on the spot. Right, like, it's not like so people saying like yeah, it's she's treated as silly in at the start when it's like, still being like a kid's thing, but it like Creature is ultimately like sympathized with, right? Dobby's, it's not like it's not it's to say that it's the elves are just slaves and they're cool with it. Like, it's not a good faith reading of the books to say that, and I do think people maybe try to push that, like, certain things negatively about Harry Potter too much, and because J.K. Rowling's not a great person, and I agree, but I get, like, that's where I guess where I go in to separate the artist from the artist, because, like, and that's the thing that gets me the most about the turf stuff, is because I think, like, Harry Potter kind of has a similar appeal to Pokemon in a way where I think it's almost, like, universally, like, appealing in a sense of, like with Pokemon, like, you can be someone in a wheelchair, right? You can be any race or sexual orientation or anything, and you can use Pokemon, right? Like, it's anyone can get into it kind of thing, which I think is a part of the reason why Pokemon's so popular. And I think Harry Potter has a similar kind of appeal where it's like, you were fucking like 11 waiting for your letter in the mail, right? Like, it's probably not going to happen, but there's a what if in your brain, right? And Hogwarts is, like, supposed to be this, like, diverse place, like, she did go out of her way, even, maybe the representation's not great, Cho Chang, kind of a weird, not real human person name. But, she did include this, racial group in her story. Right? And so, so Hogwarts, makes sense as this, like, obviously there is the fantasy racism going on, but at least as far as our normal human bullshit, it's a series that kind of is more accepting of people in that way. So the fact that she's a horrible transphobe is, like, kind of goes against the point of her own books, right? So maybe, I don't know, like, I have to go back and read them, but, I just feel like, like, that's the thing. It's like, man, Harry Potter, been super important to my family. Like, right? So, it's just, again, something I haven't really fully grappled with by, which I would if I go back to watch the movies and read the books again. But, I have to think about it. That's the thing. It's like the fact that I have to, right? Because I don't want to ignore it because she is actively using her platform to attack and marginalize people, framed in a way that she sees as positive because she's a feminist, right? It's trans exclusionary radical feminist, right? TERF. I'll let someone else go.
I guess I'll be a little bit different from Crafts here, because I'll just go ahead and say I personally think that, and I'll explain the exceptions to this, but like I think for the most part, I don't have a problem completely cutting the artist out of like my thoughts on the work. And that might sound weird because of how often I talk about, you know, oh, what is the artist trying to tell you through the work, or you know, respecting them. But ultimately, I think that, you know, who they are as a person and what they're trying to get across to the viewer through their art, or to the you know, the audience in their art, are two very different things, right? And so even to use Harry Potter as an example, right? The message of you know, of Harry Potter isn't, you know, to hate trans people. You know what I mean?
Right. It's not like her more recent book that is actually discusses, you know, the
right,
topic
but
in some
yeah,
form.
like Harry Potter isn't a story about like saying that like trying to put down trans people's identity. So because of that, I don't have a problem reading Harry Potter, for example, just as an example, and like appreciating the message in the book and appreciating the book itself. Where I would have a problem, I guess, separating that art from the artist is if it's maybe not a fictional story.
So yeah,
and it's much more like so you're like the art and the artist, or I mean maybe not art and the artist, right? But if there's a YouTuber, right, whose videos are very personal, right, and YouTubers all the time come out to be pieces of shit, that's something where that gets very hard for me to then watch that YouTuber, right? Because you know, then at that point it becomes this whole thing of, well, you know, this is like them and they're not good, right? Like if like J.K. Rowling had like a YouTube channel, I wouldn't be able to watch it. You know what I mean?
Right.
But when she's telling me a story about these other characters that are not her, I don't have a problem with that. And so it's like a similar thing for me where, like, you know, I play Call of Duty and I'll play other games by, like, you know, certain game developers. And, you know, people talk all the time about how, oh, you know, there are problems in the games industry, right? Like, you know, Activision can't stop sexually harassing women.
Yeah.
And, you know, similar things for like Riot and Crunch is another big issue that people talk about. But I try not to let that affect, especially in that instance where you have like these big companies with a lot of people. I try not to let what happens at the company almost affect my perception of the product. And part of that actually just is that, like, you know, even for Crunch or you know, things like sexual misconduct, not only are there going to be a lot of people, because it takes so many people to make a big AAA video game, not only are there going to be probably 90% of people working on the game that have nothing to do with it, but then there's also that percentage of victims. It's like, if all you do is like look at like that 5%, which is probably a high number, right? But 5% of people whose names are in the credits that are the ones that are like being problematic, and you don't like actually just try to appreciate the game as it is, it's almost like you're making it harder for the people who are essentially, right, victims of abuse, or the people who are crunching for months to get the game out, right? And so it's like, in that instance, it's like, yeah, I feel like you probably should just, like, if you're going to play the game or whatever, don't be like, well, the game sucks because it was crunched, right? Like, it's almost like you owe it to the people who did crunch to put the game out to, like, try to experience the game as it is and give it a fair shake, because there were these people who didn't really have a choice and worked really hard on it. You know what I mean? And so, especially in that instance where you have a lot of people working on something, I think letting one person taint letting one person taint 200 people's hard work is kind of childish.
Yeah, well, kind of what you were saying before you went on the tangent, I guess, but I've had this video in mind for a while. It was a video by the Weekend Warrior where he talked about Rurouni Kenshin and Louis C.K., because I believe there were some controversies about both of them dropping around the same time a few years ago. And I guess I ended up agreeing with his take, which is kind of where you're going with it. But like, because basically, you know, he liked, you know, both Louis C.K.'s comedy and Rurouni Kenshin, and his sort of take is that, like, yeah, he can still enjoy Rurouni Kenshin because even though Watsuki is kind of, you know, a piece of shit, you know, like, it's not really there in his work, right? Like, you know, there's no child characters there. It's, you know, like, there's nothing that would make you think about it, right? If you were just reading Rurouni Kenshin, from what I've heard, I've never actually read.
Right,
Kenshin.
You can enjoy.
I mean, there is a child character.
Well, no, I mean, but there's not like child sexuality, I guess.
Yeah,
like there's not things that you would associate with the real things that Watsuki has. You know, his actual, you know, CSEM that he.
Yeah, I know. I was just saying that because like I knew
I thought about it. And it's like, well, of course there's child characters, but like, you know. Right. But
of course there's child characters.
Yeah.
It's an anime, and anime only have children characters. That's my problem with it.
But yeah, like I've never actually seen a lot of like sexuality from Kenshin in general, even with the adult characters. Like it just doesn't seem to be like much of that kind of series, I guess. But again, I haven't read it, so I can't be sure. Where like with Louis C.K., a lot of his comedy is like extrapolations of him as a person, right? Like
Right.
when it turns out that no, he was actually like masturbating in front of actual people in his fucking apartment, like a hotel room or whatever. Like now his jokes about masturbation suddenly like they're painful, right? Because it's like, oh no, this guy is literally like committing what's basically like sexual assault in some like like not, not direct like assaulting them physically, but still like
right.
icky shit that people don't like, and it's hard to speak about him because he's like a notable dude and in the industry and shit. Like it's so it's like like yeah, how much of that person is in their work is definitely like it makes sense in regards to like yeah, in Harry Potter's case, right? Like I probably will be able to
You can get lost in the world of Hogwarts and the characters of Harry and Hermione and everyone without legitimately thinking of J.K. Rowling. Obviously, she wrote the book and they're her words you're reading, but you could think about the story and not have her come up.
Right,
you can't think of a Louis C.K. comedy special without thinking of Louis C.K. So I completely understand and have like on some level agree where it's like, yeah, if a comedian, right, like Chris D'Elia or whatever, also was, he was like sexting with minors, and it's like, yeah, like you can't separate that from, from the content. However, I think when it's a story and they're different characters, it's a lot easier to make that separation because the story isn't real and the story's message probably isn't the same message that the person, was like the message of Rurouni Kenshin isn't, hey, let's have CSEM. You know what I mean? So like, it's not, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts, Nun? Or anything related to the topic?
I mean, I feel like when it comes to stories that people wrote who did bad things in real life, I almost think, as you guys were saying, as long as the story has nothing to do with it, it's fine. But like, part of me would almost
that's also a personal thing. Like, if someone were to completely disavow Harry Potter, like because
I didn't mean that
I
if someone couldn't. I just meant like.
Okay, sorry. I just wanted to also clarify our thoughts because like that's how we feel personally, but like I also wouldn't like it's just a very personal thing, so I wouldn't blame anyone, but also sorry, I'll let you finish and then I'll add on to it another thought I wanted to say, but go ahead.
I would almost take it to like I feel like when somebody is making a story that usually has a positive message to it, even though they did like a bad thing, I do think there's this inherent like power that media has to only like embody the best aspects of a particular person. Like, I guess J.K. Rowling might be like a piece of shit and kind of a turf, but that side of her isn't in the writing.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of stories can be that way. And
so
like I don't think you have to feel bad for like if somebody liked something by a bad person, I don't think they have to feel bad about it because it has their other good aspects. And like, I think a lot of those good aspects that are within the story come from outside influence on that particular person. Like, I mean, I don't know if this is like being too abstract about it, but it's like, I don't like, I mean, this isn't like the most direct thing to say, but like, if somebody's dad was a great person and they subtly pass down this thing to the author and they put it into their story, kind of not directly, but like it like, I don't know, like I feel like all the experiences of someone's life going into something else, it's not necessarily just that person in the work, even if it's like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if that's too abstract.
Right? Yeah,
to say.
The way people
aren't so people aren't so simplified as to only be their worst aspects, right? Even if like
Well, yeah, and I think also what Nun was saying was that like it's more like when someone creates a piece of art, it's not just them reflected in it; it's also a reflection of the people that they've known throughout their lives, right? Is essentially what you were trying to say.
Yes.
Which is, for example, right? I'll just use the example of something I watched recently, which was the I really like watching actually, and I actually recommend this to y'all, both of y'all, and also to anyone listening. Not all of them are as interesting, but there's like on Disney Plus, there's a series of like Inside Pixar, where it's like little mini documentaries, like 5 to 15 minutes long, of different people who work at Pixar talking about things, right? So there's one where it's a character designer talking about where she gets inspiration, and like how she creates her character designs. And there's one about like the guy who does like music talking about that, right? And there was one that was the director of Onward talking about how he came up with the story for Onward, where he had directed Monsters University, and then he moved on to basically Pixar asked him like, hey, do you want to direct your own movie? And so then he had to try to think of what in his life would maybe make a good story. And I think that it was just really interesting to listen to hear like how people like at these massive like studios, you know, they maybe think of the story and then turn it into something. But he was talking about how, you know, he wanted to make the story about his family. And so, you know, even though there's some abstraction between him and the younger brother character and his older brother and the older brother character and his mom and the mom character, like to him, it was like it was them. And like, he was making the movie for his older brother. Right. And so I think that that's like another example of like a better example, or not a better, but like a I guess non-abstract example. Right, of what Nun was talking about, where, you know, this guy, the guy who directed Onward could be a piece of shit, but if his brother's a great person, his brother's directly reflected in
there's
the
other
movie,
people
right?
in the work other than the direct person, because I don't know, like, I think it's just too complex of like what goes into the making of something to just be like one person.
And I also
when Vindy was talking about and when Vindy was talking about that, I was thinking about like how Kishimoto mentioned one time in an interview about someone he knew way back, like you know how like Naruto and Sasuke are orphans. I'm pretty sure he mentioned someone that he knew that kind of is why, like, that's kind of where it comes from. So if like, you know, Kishimoto was like some fucking psychopath for some reason and we just didn't know, there's concrete places of where things in Naruto come from.
I mean, Kishimoto did think that maybe he should kill his brother because he really liked touch.
Kishimoto also did think that maybe the Japanese didn't commit any war crimes. And you know what? Naruto was better for it.
But what I was going to say is that, because I do think maybe some people think it goes both ways. Because, like, I think if you like a piece of art or something more because, like, you like the person behind it, I think that's perfectly fair. But I think you can also, like, feel that way, but also not care about the person behind a piece of art because you care about the art and they're a piece of shit. Like, I don't think it's like that binary of a thing where it's like you have to do both or neither, because, like, I don't know, people aren't simple, they're complex, and I think it's fine to like, yeah, I can like part of J.K. Rowling, the part that made Harry Potter, without liking the turf part, right? Where I could like if there's an author I really respect for, you know, whatever reason, like I respect Oda as a creator a lot, you know. Like, I guess, and another way I was just thinking about earlier, because I remember when I kind of first came into contact with, like, transgender stuff, even though I didn't fully understand it till later, I remember I was doing a play-by-post roleplay, and I was talking out of character. I think I was game mastering the game, even. And I remember two people were being silly, and I'm like, oh, you guys, and one of them got at me a little bit, because I believe they were a cis woman. And she just said, hey, like, we're both girls. Like, you can't just say, like, guys is a gender neutral term in my book. Like, yeah. I thought she was being a little silly. And the other person, who I believe was a trans woman, mentioned that, like, but, like, was, you know, being more charitable, I guess, with the apparent misgendering, basically. And I remember just, like, having to think about, like, you know, like, oh, you know, some people are, you know, different in that way. And I guess, like, you know, I was perfectly, you know, I was respecting their identity. And I guess later how I sort of have come to frame it is that, like, I can respect a person's expression without respecting their character, I guess, if that makes sense. Because I was also thinking, like, I think there was damn it, I can't remember their name. Fuck. They're one of the more famous trans people, like a celebrity, but they're...
Jenner.
Thank you.
Or Caitlyn Jenner, I'm sorry. Oh my god, yes. Caitlyn Jenner. Censor that. Sorry, I was watching South Park. I was watching South Park, and it talked about Caitlyn Jenner, and it was getting on. You know what I mean? And so
right. But yeah, and that's exactly what I was thinking about, because, like, from what I've heard, Caitlyn Jenner doesn't seem to be a particularly great person, right? But, like, I don't think she reflects on every trans person. Like, you know, trans people are people too, right? Like, I can respect her identity and like this decision to, her identity, like, she decided her name is Caitlyn Jenner and she is a woman, right? Like, I can respect that, and also think she's I can respect their identity as a human while also not thinking they're a good person, right? Like, I'm not going to, misgender J.K. Rowling or call her some made up stupid name because I don't respect, and identity is a part of your expression, right? Like how you name yourself, how you treat yourself, right? So, or frame present yourself rather, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like I can respect someone's art without necessarily respecting the artist, just like
right.
I can respect someone else's, like, their identity expression without respecting their person, basically. Right. So that's kind of just one thing that has helped frame like that topic for me, but also, and it is relevant to the
yeah. And well, the way you were talking about that gave me, it was just because you mentioned something and it helped me kind of think of an example, I think, to explain, because I think it's hard sometimes without examples to really explain what I mean by some ideas. But like when I say that, like, these series aren't about what the people are that are problematic, you know what I mean? So an example of like, if that happened, it would call into question legitimately call into question how I feel about the series, would be One Piece, actually. If like Oda out of nowhere became this terrorist and was like trying to fight to abolish governments everywhere, right? Was like bombing buildings. No, it's funny to say, but I'm being serious, right?
I was because like I was when I it's not that I've never thought about that, right? Because like, especially like when you consider it like his friendship with Shimabukuro, I think his name is, the Toriko author. Yeah. Like I feel like the more realistic thing is Oda is all like, what, like he just happens to be connected to both Shimabukuro and Watsuki, and I'm just like, please don't be involved in anything CSCM related or underage. Like, please, God, Oda, please.
Even if it was even if Oda was, that's different, because that's not like
that's why I laughed when you brought up this example, right? Because like I always framed it where it's like, okay, if Oda was involved with this, I think I could separate my favorite piece of art ever with a person who I used to formerly respected as an artist who's now a bad person. But then you brought in like, oh shit, like terrorism and anti-fascism,
if turning
and it's
One Piece into this like thing where the message of One Piece is the same thing the same message that he's committing bad acts under, I guess.
Right now, it's harder to separate, right? Where it's like,
because
and not
now
to say
it's
you
like
can't, but it's
because now it's much harder, because when you're reading One Piece and you're actually digesting what it's doing, it's much easier than to think of, well, was this what Oda thought when
my favorite
brought
moment
down
in One Piece.
when
Luffy burns down as tells Sogeking to burn down the flag, and
just like Oda burned down
the flag
of
Japan.
Building,
it's just like, fuck.
Right, and so I guess that's the best example I can give of where then it gets a lot harder to separate, because then the message and the crime, I guess, are parallel. But when those message and crime are not the same, I think it can be very easy, because then you just have to remember that like people can be bad or maybe be bad about one thing, right? And you can be a bad person and be shitty about something, but still think something good, right? Like, I hate how often people use this guy as an example for everything, because I think it just overplays it, but I'll go ahead and use him as an example because I don't give a fuck. Hitler was a terrible person. Nobody's doubting that. But Hitler might have thought it was good to wash your balls every day.
I mean, no, he was a vegetarian. He loved his dog. He loved his family. Committed some of the worst war crimes in human history. Like, and he's a human being.
If Hitler had written a well-researched book about how you should wash your balls every day, yeah, you know what? He was right.
You reminded me, there's like an episode of PCP, I forget what it was, but I think Best Guy Ever did a quote about how, like, about people, just because they've read a lot of books doesn't mean they're well-read people, and everyone's like kind of nodding along, and like, yeah, that makes sense, and it's like, the quote was from Adolf Hitler, and everyone just fucking loses it, because like, we're just nodding along, and it's fucking Hitler, like, whoops, but it's like, it's still, I mean, it sounded like a good quote, and like, it's definitely true that people can experience a lot of like media, but don't necessarily like engage with it or understand it or become literate in it, right? Like,
just like Best Guy Ever.
Fuck! Got him! Holy shit! That's great. Great timing. Holy fuck. But yeah, like, so, yeah, I can agree with that quote. And also go, Hitler maybe shouldn't have, killed so many fucking people in concentration camps. That's kind of fucked up, dude. Also the racism and the fascism, like, dude, what the fuck?
Yeah, what the hell, bro? Like, come on. but like, that's even like a small example, right? That like you can agree with things, and so because of that, you can agree with the message in something. I can agree that, yeah, Harry's correct. Voldemort should not have been trying to kill all these people. And that Harry was like kind of right, and that the story works. And then also be like, hey, completely unrelated thing, J.K. Rowling, stop shutting down trans people's identities. You fuck.
Just stop. Just take the fucking pen out of her hand. Just stop, please. Take Twitter. Get off of Twitter forever, please. Just no. Right. But yeah, and I guess like the thing is like about another thing about it is like, especially when you think of just how like, like there was the big, like in Hollywood a few years ago where just a lot of people were coming about all the sexual abuse that had been happening. And, like some of these things are just so, or crunch in video games, or Blizzard, like some of these things are just so big and systemic that like, you just kind of have to accept that you can't do anything about it. Right? Like, right. Now, that's not to say you shouldn't do anything, like, especially if you are in a position to, call someone out or stop someone from doing something bad, right? Like, if you have a friend, like, if a friend is doing something horrible, they should not be, and, and you should help them, and
that's why we should
not help them stop, not help them with this.
And that's why we should all champion Phil Spencer for buying Activision Blizzard, because Bobby Kotick's out of there. So hopefully the guy at the top now, being Phil Spencer, right, because he's the company above Activision Blizzard, won't be okay with people raping women in the office. Just a thought.
Right, and like, cause yeah, like you were talking about earlier, where it's like, there's so many people who work on a game. Like, if you boycott a game or don't pirate a game because you don't want to support the company, it's like they don't fucking care. Oh no,
especially
-$60.
a big game like Call of Duty, right?
Right, like it's not any meaningful or significant amount to like, right, and like you're just cutting yourself off from enjoying this thing that other people who aren't shitty or are victims worked on, right? Like crunch, yeah, like like the people who crunch on games, they're like, yeah, they're victims, and I wish practices were better that didn't happen, but like, I'm not saying that you need to support this game because these people worked hard on it, but it's like, if you like the game, like, you're, like just don't like play it and go like, wow, this was shit, because like you said earlier, Vindy, like, oh, it's shit because people, no, like,
right,
they worked hard on it because they cared, right?
And
like,
I fully support people, by the way, like, if you don't want to buy a game because of crunch, that's more than fine. Hey, don't buy it. Just don't fucking go on Twitter and talk about it as if you played it, for one. And two, like, here's the thing, right?
And don't act like you majorly affected anything, because your buying power isn't just that as significant as you. Because I think that's kind of the reason people do try to and not saying they shouldn't speak out against shitty people or stuff, but like at the end of the day, like J.K. Rowling is still like, her book was like her shitty transphobic book was still successful. Like, she still has a platform. Right? Like, if anything, the controversy is drawing more attention to her. And I'm not saying that you should not call her out for being a shitty person, but, like, it's not as easy as sending a tweet like, wow, J.K. Rowling sucks, to just like, oh boy, let's end all these big systemic problems in all these industries. Like, yay. Like, it's not that easy. But I do think a lot of the way people kind of, like, with cancel culture and just in general, like, online activism is, like, feeling like you're in power without actually being in power, and I think that's really like insidious, and people should understand that, like, they're not, like, it's usually hurting people. Like, Lindsay Ellis got canceled, like, she for a dumb tweet about Raya and the Last Dragon, and now she's not making videos anymore. She quit YouTube. Like, those are the people who suffer from cancel culture, the people who are big enough to attract everyone's ire, but not big enough to actually defend themselves, because J.K. Rowling is fucking big enough to defend herself.
Was it okay? So I have two things to say. I'm going to go back and say something, and then I'm going to make my second point. So I'm going to make my first one really quickly, which is like, look, and I could do like an entire episode about like crunch in video games, but I've seen multiple interviews, and I wish I had them on hand right now. I don't, because I didn't know we'd be really talking about it. But like, I've seen interviews and like seen AAA game developers say that like they don't want to crunch, but sometimes they feel like with the current way that games are made systemically, crunch is kind of mandatory, right? Mm-hmm. Like, there's like no other way to get around, when you need to bug fix a game and you're adding these features, and there are things that you kind of can't know are going to be issues till they all come together, and you can't spend all this time making the game and then put it together, because another thing about games, they don't cost enough. People don't like hearing this. Games should not be worth $60. They've been worth $60 for years. They've gone up exponentially in price, and inflation happened, and they cost less.
It's shocking.
They cost less than what they used to.
It is like absurd to think that fucking Link to the Past and Super Metroid were also $60 when they came out. Just like Metroid
those
Dread
games
and
were
Breath
like
of the Wild.
$80.
Oh fuck, you're
I've
right.
seen like ads; they were worth more. So people people complain because they don't want to spend more on their games, and people constantly complain about games being $70 now. I personally, I would not buy as many games; it would suck. But if the average price on release is a big difference, right? Fuck you, Nintendo. You actually are cringe. But on release, if AAA games were $100, that's probably a more fair price in terms of, and another thing about, I'm not gonna go into raising the price of games, but games do not cost enough, right? So game studios have to get the game out quickly, because if they don't get the game out and they run out of money, the game won't get finished and the studio has to close, and now hundreds of people are out of a job, right? So, like, crunch is kind of a part, the nasty part of the industry that, from what it sounds like, a lot of people inside the industry, among AAA game development, right? Obviously, it's very different with indie games, but for AAA game development, it's kind of like the nasty, like, dark underbelly that has to be there, right?
Right.
But
that's why we call it like a systemic problem, because the systems in place are like feeding into it, and in order to change it, you also have to change the entire system, which is going to be so messy and costly that no one is actually going to do it, because like the company that does do it is probably going to lose money. Right. Even though, like if you, like, as a casual buyer, if you go to a store and you like are like, okay, there's like $50-$60 games and one $100 game, you're not going to go, oh, this game's $100. It's probably better than the other one. No. You're gonna buy like two $60 games, and because just like that's just So it's just it's very big, and it's very difficult to affect anything. Yeah. So yeah.
And another part of the problem in terms of upping game price is, I think most people, I actually don't think that it's, I think it's a mix. Like, I don't think it's that they just don't care. I think it's that they're selfish, or they're just completely unaware to the fact that if games were all across the board more expensive, they would be getting more games that they like, because if like in like the sixth generation of consoles, right? The GameCube, the Xbox and the PS2, there were a lot of games being made that were very niche, right? Because a game would only have had to sell, because it was cheaper to make, so you could make a game for pretty cheap. It only had to sell 300,000 copies, right? Is a ballpark, right? For a cheapish game to be successful.
Right, like, even though they're selling for the same price as usual, more or less, it's like, but they're, because they're cheaper to make, and at the time that would just $60 just was more value, right? Just by inflation. So
you could only sell 300,000 units to be successful, and you would get more. Companies were more willing to take risks on games. You got a lot of games that were even flops in that, but you got games that because it was a lot easier to hit that. When games can legitimately, which happens every year, there's a game that sells around 5 million units and is seen as a flop. People don't think that's an issue.
Yeah.
If something sells 5 million units, it should be seen as a fucking win. Like, that is a W. You did it. But games will sell 5 million units, be seen as a flop. The studio will be dissolved, and the franchise will lay dead. It's fucking insane. But the other point I wanted to make was about, because you were talking about like cancel culture, and I think this was in the Lindsay Ellis video. This wasn't something I watched. I don't remember what it was, but it was essentially the point that like the only people that are going to be affected by cancel culture anyways are people that actually care about the message. Right. So someone like Donald Trump is not affected by cancel culture, not because he's too big, but because he doesn't give a shit.
No, yeah,
right?
I've heard, I think maybe it was Twitter where she said it, where it's like, you can't shame the shameless, basically, or maybe it was that video, because like,
I think it was that video.
Right. So, because like, Donald Trump has no shame, he's too big for you to affect, right? And like, he's literally like a, wealthy businessman, literally was the president for 4 years, like, What are you're gonna cancel him? Okay, but like, yeah, again, like, you know, the size, it does matter, and you know, like,
right, and because
so
Lindsay Ellis is someone who also cares, because there are YouTubers her size, right, that you could try to cancel, don't give a fuck. Their audience doesn't give a fuck, so you can't cancel them, right?
Mm-hmm. So this disproportionately affects the people who care the most, right?
The people who, instead of maybe trying to cancel them, right? The people who, if you sat them down, I mean, obviously, there are times where cancel culture is good, or not good, but there are times where you can legitimately cancel people that do need to be canceled. But, like, in terms of what most people consider with cancel culture, it's like, there are times where those people either would say, yeah, that was a long time ago, I've grown since then, and not make those mistakes again, or if you sat them down and had a talk with them and explained to them why what they were saying was problematic or what they were doing is problematic, they would probably not do it again and actually change for the better. You know?
Right, but the radicalization just kind of, you know, might at worst push them in the opposite direction.
If you make any mistake, you're fucked, and we steamroll you, and you're gone.
Right. I feel like I had some other points to bring up, but regarding the topic,
I did too.
I'll reread the topic, but
I have, I guess, one example of someone that I used to not look up to, but like I used to, I guess, respect what they did, and then now I can't even enjoy it at all.
I can think of one person,
which is EDP445.
Not the person I was thinking about.
I used to think that guy was funny as fuck, okay? Some of his videos, legitimately hysterical. The way he just would talk when he would go on his rants, hysterical, right? But then he got caught trying to have sex with a 13-year-old, and I can't even watch his old content anymore. Just anytime I see him, it's like I just can't find it funny, you know? Because his content was so him, and now, like, him is not someone that I want to, you know what I mean? So that's like an example for me personally of where, like, I don't think I could separate, you know, just to use like the phrasing, the art from the artist, because his videos were him being funny and like ranting about shit, and him is not a good person. So there's nothing there that I can like use as a level of abstraction.
And I guess maybe this person is a little different because it's not just like some random creator who I watched their stuff. I actually knew this person and would have considered them a friend. You know, I recently, you know, tweeted about it. In fact, yeah, Mr. Cynical was
Fuck
former
this guy.
Yeah, it makes me so mad. Yeah, I was a friend of his. I respected him. I looked up to his content. Then, you know, I think especially when, like, I was already kind of like, you know, realizing there are problems with the stuff that he refused to acknowledge or didn't care about, even though he's trying to make, you know, whatever videos. And then, you know, he told that if he hates himself, he should just die. You know, like literally telling a good friend of mine that he should basically kill himself after he's already literally attempted it over a dozen times. And it's like, wow, you're kind of a piece of shit. And that's also kind of just brushing off the fact that, like, he was, you know, Senpai Notes was calling out Mr. Cynical on Twitter for sounding like a rapist and possibly raping a person. And then he literally, like, and some other people got in call with him, and he described choking out his girlfriend because he was mad, like, in an alleyway. Like, so literally, like, assaulting women, like, already a piece of shit. Then it turns out he fucking got involved in sex tourism in fucking Thailand and actually had, like, sex with children. And it's like, holy fuck, you are a piece of human shit. Please die? Yeah, like, I'm not even, like, I don't want to breathe on his channel. I don't want to speak to him again. And I hope he ends up in prison. Like, fuck you. So yeah, I kind of like, yeah, when you mentioned, yeah, I just thought of it and I'm like, we haven't talked about this on the, Weeb Club,
have we? Talked about it on the Weeb Club.
No.
Yeah, fuck that guy.
Yeah, so a little different, but yeah. Sorry to anyone who likes his videos, even if you still like his videos, because, you know, he purposely did try to cut himself out of his content. Probably because if you actually knew him as a person, you'd realize he was a piece of shit. You know, so which tends to happen because I already was drifting away from him even before this happened. So like last year when we found out about it. So
and that's an example where you know, his lolicon video's dog shit now. I don't care who you are, what you say.
Even if the message behind it is perfectly fine, like the fact that he's the one who made it, it's disgusting.
The fact that, yeah, he made that video defending lolicon, even if he made phenomenal points, right? He defended it and then went and had sex with a child. So it's not okay to, like that's one of those times
like, the fact that, especially the fact because he, at the beginning and end, he uses a clip from Nymphomaniac, which is horrible, fucked up film. One of my favorites ever. Really dark. Don't watch it, especially not the director's cut. It's unless you want to hurt, and it's part of the Depression trilogy by the director.
Right. Yeah, it's that Antichrist and
Melancholia.
Melancholia. Okay.
It's rough, but like, so the part in the movie that he uses as a clip is like, the main character who sort of, she's an nymphomaniac. She's ruined her life and gone on this constant downward spiral because she is addicted to sex, and she kind of like sympathizes with a guy who was attracted to children and didn't even realize it. And she says something about how, like, if you are attracted to children and you don't do anything, like, you don't give into your desires, like, I think she says something like, you deserve a medal. And yeah, she's not a great person, but I at least kind of understand where she's coming from. But that doesn't fucking apply to you, Mr. Cynical, because you were a fucking piece of shit who has assaulted children, like, and involved yourself. Anyway, I'm done. God. Fuck. Shit. Do you have anything to say, Nunmanji?
I mean, I had stuff to say like way earlier, but I didn't want to cut anybody off. When you guys were talking about crunch, I just felt like when people try to be against games that were crunched or shit on them, I feel like it's actually not like respecting the feelings of people who were part of that crunch for putting out the game, because like they're assuming how those people should feel. Like they're assuming like, oh, it's good that we boycott this game or try and tear down whatever the game is trying to do, when like they don't know how the people who crunched on it actually feel. And like, yeah, it's hard to like actually find out like how everyone feels, and like a lot of them probably won't even say anything. But I think just assuming that everybody thinks the game, like assuming they would be happy with their game just getting fucked, is like completely unreasonable.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm sure there's some on the like there could be some people who do maybe agree with like fuck this or whatever, especially if like they worked on a game and then left the studio, like maybe they wouldn't care then. And like maybe some of like Call of Duty, I guess, sort of like like I guess it's like kind of like less of a thing that everybody there wants to work on, because some people do end up having to work on Call of Duty that might not want to. But I definitely don't think people can justify this idea of just like assuming that just boycotting the game is the best thing to do, or what like the people on the team would have wanted.
Like that's the thing in any creative field. Like you can expect that a decent amount of the people at the very least got into it because they care about it, right? Because they like one thing I was actually going to bring up earlier about crunch even is that I think I remember reading a article about this. I think it was a smaller company, but like they were talking about how like in order to deal with crunch within the company, the problem was that like because people cared about the game and they wanted it to be good, they like literally had to be forced to take time off.
Oh yeah, like they would sit there working after hours because they wanted to continue working because they cared. Yeah.
Right, and also like they didn't want to burden their other coworkers because like if I take time off, then everyone else suffers more, so I'm not going to take time off. So like they had take a week off. Just don't take a vacation. Just because or go on, Vindy.
Well, part of that is that it's an art. Like games are an artistic medium, right? And the same way you'll have a writer, write himself to the bone, sitting in front of his computer for 100 hours a week writing a book, or you'll have a painter painting sun up till sundown for days until they finish their painting. You'll have game designers and programmers who will work all day for days because they're artists and they're working on their craft, and to them, like, not that they're okay with that, and not that it's okay to do that because it's not healthy, but you know what I mean? Like that, I think that some of that is just what comes with an artistic medium, right? Like
another. Go on then.
I was going to say on some level, like not most people, but a lot of people who do work on these things recognize that they're sacrificing like either some of their health or their well-being for the sake of the thing that they want to do.
Another sacrifice that people don't talk about, that people like literally don't talk about when they talk about game development, is the monetary sacrifice. If you're a programmer, which is to say, if you're a programmer and you do not work in video games, you will make more than if you do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's what I mean by creative field, right? Like, especially like, because, like, I guess another where, I was also thinking about manga and just how, like, unless your series is like a massive success, like you can maybe like live off of it, but you're not like, like there's, and yeah, like that's a good point about like, programming literally anything but video games will be more profitable, but video games are more interesting and people care a lot about them, right?
Yeah.
Like, so they're going to...
More profitable, you'll work real hours,
and I'd say that's also
off.
true even for just, like, other certain aspects, like the art design and, the... Like, I mean, don't have the numbers, but I can see, like if I were a special effects guy, would I go into making video games or would I go into Hollywood, right? Like,
right.
Like, which would be more profitable or profitable? Why can't I say that fucking word? I'm sorry.
It is funny that twice now you've said it the same way.
I also feel like whatchamacallit, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, like with like the crunch thing, there's enough proof, I would say, to know that a bunch of people can feel differently about having to crunch on something, because even like non-professional stuff, like people who subtitle anime, like almost all of them, even just like fan subbers, they crunch themselves or sacrifice their own money to do something. And it doesn't mean like they resent the thing they're doing enough to want somebody to fucking like just boycott the work or whatever. Like people are like, I know like with the Project Echo, I think people had to buy really expensive equipment for the sake of making the thing look HD and making it like actually look good. And like, I don't know, like I think there's just too many examples of people making some kind of sacrifice for the sake of the art that they're working on to be able to assume that like in AAA studios, like all the developers would be fine with it being boycotted. And partially when it comes to crunch, yeah, there's like, it is like corporations definitely are contributing to the idea of crunching, but like people who work there also aren't like, it's not it's not impossible for someone there to be the one that's like crunching themselves in a sense.
Right.
I don't know. I think it's just really weird how people treat it.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say one more thing, adding on to more about from the production side, because I remember, I think it was around when Jujutsu Kaisen went on like a month-long hiatus because Akutami was having health issues, and there were some tweets about it. I think it was by Ken Akamatsu, who did Negima. I might be misremembering or mixing around who tweeted what, but I think they tweeted something to the effect of how like it's not as simple as the magazine like letting authors have time off because they often want to work. Like it's the same thing as with the games where like so like because we're all well aware of like the difficult manga schedule where it's like you have like maybe 4 hours like of free time a week basically, and everything else is working on your 20 pages, right? But like if the author themselves again cares about their manga and wants to make it and wants to please audiences and get their story across, like it's going to be harder to get them to stop, and even for just a week, and like that's I guess it's just another example I was thinking of in regards to like how these creative people care about the stuff they do sometimes, especially in these creative fields, and that's going to be something that it's going to be hard to fix the problem of the overworking, because never mind that Japan has its own fucking workplace culture and overworking and karoshi that's also relevant to that discussion, so it's
that's
like,
something I was about to bring up in the topic of crunch, right? Which is the only time people talk about crunch is in Western studios, right? Which, not to say it's not a problem in Western studios, right? But if you believe that crunch is bad and you won't buy like certain Western-made
cancel
video
your
games
Crunchyroll subscription. Stop reading
do
Shonen
not
Jump.
buy any single fucking game that's ever been made in Japan. Because if you know anything about Japanese work culture, that literally is crunch 24/7, 365. Those motherfuckers are constantly crunching. So if you're not going to buy, for example, like Red Dead Redemption 2 because there was crunch at Rockstar, I better not see you fucking playing, like, I don't know,
Persona
Final Fantasy
5.
16 when that shit comes out, or Persona 5.
Never
Because
update your
I
man
can
list again because
promise.
you are not real. Like, all of that shit was made on people, like, slaving away, basically.
Yeah, I can promise the Atlas crunched to make Persona 5. I would bet money on it because I know for a fact it's true.
But yeah, at least with things I have to say, I think I'm done with the topic. But if you guys have more to add, because I think we covered all of the points in the topic.
I don't think I have much more.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much agree with, like, as long as I could still fucking, like, look at the work without thinking about the person, then I'm fine with consuming it, really. Yeah, I don't know. I guess, like, I have, like, one exception, possibly, that might end up making it kind of, like, I don't know, it's a weird thing. Like, with the Christian stuff, even though Gino's the one making the documentary, and it has, like, it's not supporting Chris to watch it. I've thought about not continuing it. I probably will continue it, but it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, it does it might affect it for me. I don't know.
Well, and
he hasn't made an episode in forever, so.
Well, and I guess another thing specifically about Chris Chan that's kind of, like, unique, I think, is that, like, Chris is in particular someone who has, like obviously, you know, not, you know, kind of a weird person, and kind of, or not weird, being weird is bad in itself, but, like, weird, and they were made worse by virtue of, like, the online harassment and stuff, right? Like, you know, like, it's not, I don't know, it's a complex situation, so, like, you can probably make the argument that, like, you know, like, at least fairly, like, I think, you know, knowing about it isn't the worst, but, like, you know, people, like, some of the ways just people, like, discuss and have interacted with Christine, I don't know her name.
She's Christine.
You were talking
right
about Chris
now,
Chan. Sorry, you said my name.
She's also
so
fine
like,
with being called Chris.
Oh, sorry. No, I didn't mean. I can cut that out. But yeah. So, like, right. So I don't know. That was just a thought I had, where it's like that's a weird specific example of just, like, because people have been, you know, harassing, and, like, horrible shit has led to more horrible shit, and you know. But
and I think with her, a lot of, like, the, I guess, valuable art that comes out of that whole thing has nothing to do with her, because it's like, you know, it's not like people are out here watching her videos. They watch other people's videos talking about her videos, or talking about what she's doing.
And even if, when they do engage, like, if the people who engage with Sonichu are mostly interested in it as a window into her life, right? And like why did she make this comic, and, like, what kind of, like Sonichu is interesting because of how it relates to what was happening at the time, right? So, you know, but anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's, like, I think she's, like, a super interesting example to think about sometimes, because you can definitely take a lot of value out of, like, seeing so much of someone's life to where they got them now. And I think there's a lot of positive things that could be taken from that, because I guess, because it's like, you know, like, I don't know. I think there's so many different places where you can see how, like, they could have been, like, a better person. But people were real terrible, and, like, I don't know, like, everybody in their life is not a good person. So, I don't know. I think it's interesting to see, and I almost, like, equate the idea of, like, watching, like, the documentary about her to, like, people who kind of watch, like, crime documentaries, because it's, I mean, you know, like, it's kind of like, you're not watching it because, like, purely because of somebody just, like, killed somebody, but it's like, I don't know, I think there's very different reasons why somebody watches a crime documentary, to kind of just understand how someone can get to a bad
why
point.
Is this person like this, and why did they do what they did, kind of thing, right?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just something I thought about.
No, that's that would have been interesting. Yeah, I don't know that much, because, like, I watched, like, what, the Ben Saint PCP fucking lecture on Sonichu, and I've heard of things, like, throughout the years, but I don't really know that much about the topic. So anyway, Orient, I guess that sounds like.
Yes, sir.
What did you guys think about episode 3?
I liked it. Hot lady.
Yes.
Blue-haired lady. Hot.
Yeah, with the glasses. She's cute.
Yeah, hot. Did you hate it again, then?
I think it was okay.
All right.
Another episode of Orient.
I guess I'll talk about it again. Since Crafts can't really lead the...
It's hard to talk about it, at
Crafts
least first.
Can't lead the discussion about it. And Nun literally doesn't care about it. I don't even know if he watched the episode.
I literally did. I saw the episode. I know he tried to kill the thing, but then the fucking guy took his victory, and he was all upset about it. I thought that was funny. That he was just moaning about it.
I like Naotora a lot, actually. I like his band of Bushin a lot. I think it's really cool the way that this series is, and I'm going to say this as someone with very, very minimal understanding of Japanese history. Mm-hmm. I do like the way that this series is incorporating things like the Warring States period.
Yeah, it's like a fantasy example with monsters and
Miyamoto Musashi and Sasaki Kojiro into this like fantasy story where there are motorcycles and people are flying around and they're fighting demons. I think it's really cool, and it makes the setting like really fun almost,
Mm-hmm.
And it makes me wait for the video that someone will eventually make, some fucking YouTuber that I'll actually watch, where it's like they're unpacking the real life history that goes into the series.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, because there was a comment about how Bushi embroil the innocent in their conflicts and stuff, which samurai historically have been known for kind of being pieces of shit sometimes, right? So that was just the thought I had, where it's like there's some real historical associations you can make with that comment, and right? So
yeah. I mean, and I do like how they did bring up the idea of that not every Bushi agrees on everything. So they're, even amongst themselves, they argue and disagree on things. So,
right, it's not just
some
a
of them are definitely
against
worse
the Kishin
than others.
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciated that because, it'd be cool to see more Bushi and, maybe see like Bushi or kind of like an antagonist group or whatever.
Because I think Naotori even said that it's only third-rate Bushi who fight other Bushi, but that means they do 100% exist in the setting, right? It was stated. And I guess for me, one thing that I thought was interesting about the episode is that because I know the mechanics of how the battle fight system works that haven't been introduced yet, and I could see it in this episode when I didn't really recognize it don't remember it in the original chapters reading them over 3 years ago. So I was just kind of like, what?
Can I make a guess?
Sure.
They got to be buffed by their friends.
Interesting.
Because their friends were giving him the blue blowjobs and around him, and I think he had to be buffed by his friends. And Sasaki's going to have to buff Musashi, or the other way around is be Pog.
Okay.
I mean, there is a girl in their group who's going to join, that third person.
Yeah,
she
showed up at the end of the episode.
Yeah, but if you look at the OP, she's a punchy lady, so she doesn't buff anyone. She gets buffed by me.
Also, I did notice in the opening, finally, that the main guy's using an actual sword, so he doesn't keep the pickaxe.
Yeah, it got broken in this episode, so I was wondering what you guys were going to think about, if you guys were going to bring that up, because, I know he gets a sword eventually anyway, but, I forgot, the pickaxe was this, cool, unique weapon. It's like, oh, it broke. Never mind. Never shows up again. Yeah, or at least hasn't yet. So, unfortunate.
Sad.
I like the episode, so are we done? Or Nunmanji.
Who are you?
Oh, okay, I'll just leave, I guess.
You're so cringe.
I don't like being forced to go first, so...
You literally are not... You go first. That is where you are in the order. That is where you have been in the order for 20 weeks now.
35 weeks!
No, because... Oh, you're right, because he has been here since weekly 1. For some reason I thought when what left is when none came, but that's wrong. Yeah, 36 weeks actually. You could think beforehand about what you're going to talk about.
I already know what I'm going to talk about.
Okay, then stop complaining and being a little baby.
Who are you?
Okay, then talk about it. Stop being cringe.
Wait, seriously, who are you?
Dying. He's dying.
That is true. I'm dying of COVID, and the last thing you could actually say to me would be, "Who are you?" Think about that. Okay, I have COVID. I have something I'm dying. You have to be nice to me.
Look at the chat.
The last
that's for you.
Of us?
All right. I'm leaving the podcast.
It's for you. What? I have something for you.
I'm leaving the podcast.
All right, Nun, talk about your fucking zombie game.
What the fuck? They're infected? Excuse you?
With COVID?
I'm infected with COVID.
Oh, global pandemic and fucking Last of Us. I really like the game. Have you played it, Crafts? I don't know how much you can spoil.
Nope. I watched like 5 minutes of the Joseph Anderson video, got emotional, at the big event that happens in the very start of the game. And I was like, I think I should just fucking play this game and not watch this video because if
Hard game.
so yeah, and I just haven't gotten around to it.
I had a fun time because I don't play a lot of games like Last of Us, so it was super cool to I had to sneak around a lot. I had to change my mindset about how to approach things because I was playing a game that I haven't played much of. It says something when the closest game I can think of off the top of my head is when you have to sneak around in the Arkham games and Batman. It's not really the same thing. And I was kind of bad at it at first because it was a pretty early encounter that was giving me a lot of trouble. When you were with Tess and Ellie and there was this dark room with a bunch of infected. That, I don't know, that one was giving me trouble, and it's the most I struggled the whole game. Even during the ending part where it's harder, I still think that other part way earlier on was harder for me.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure it is because I got better, but
no, I don't think
you
I
do
don't
get
think,
more
I think,
resources over.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think the ending part is hard. If anything, the ending is a little bit easier because especially in that I assume you're talking about the spot in the the final set piece and the final.
Well, no, I was talking. Well, I mean, the part where it's all snowing and stuff, and you're playing as Ellie.
Oh, okay. Because even then, I think the game gives you, as you go, it gives you a bunch more, resources. And I think that's what makes Last of Us so interesting and makes. I actually, in this aspect, have never played a game I think like Last of Us, where, in a lot of other games, I can miss one bullet on an enemy, even other, third-person AAA games. You miss one bullet, it's I don't give a fuck. But especially when you play on harder difficulties and it makes resources scarcer, there have been times where I've legitimately missed a shot in Last of Us and just reset to a save.
I've heard
I missed a bullet and just said, fuck it, I can't do this, and reset to a save.
I reset when I flub with the arrows. That's the one that messing up with the arrows. Yeah.
One of the things I know about Last of Us, I think it was Awkward Zombie, where there's a comic where I guess Joel is the character you control, and he shoots an arrow and he misses, and it's he just goes welp, and then he just gets eaten by the zombies, and has to restart the save basically. And I was okay, that's just okay, that's how valuable the it's funny that both of you feel the exact same way with how rare the resources are.
I don't always feel that way, especially later in the game. I had some resources I could mess up with and not feel affected. I wasn't playing on Survivor, I was playing on hard, so maybe on Survivor that would have really been bad.
I think Survivor, I don't play on Grounded or the very hardest, but I generally play on Survivor. Survivor 2 is where I find it the most fun, but hard is better than playing on easy. There's a Survivor 2 and Last of Us 2. That's what I played on, was Survivor 2.
Oh,
or maybe I'm thinking of a different game. Maybe I'm thinking of Days Gone, actually, which is possible.
In this, there's only easy, normal, hard, Survivor, and Grounded, and I just did hard.
Then I think I just do Survivor. Yeah, but yeah.
Yeah, and what was I gonna say? Yeah, I liked how it changed my mindset about how to approach things, and even when there's not enemies around, I just tend to already just be crouching and sneaking around and looking carefully in case something does show up. And I think over time, how I would look around changed a lot. I would I don't know, I definitely was super careful about how I was looking at everything. And I thought that was a lot of fun. I also really like Ellie and Joel. They're pretty great. I'm sad that I know a little bit about Last of Us 2.
If it's what I think everyone knew that was coming to Last of Us 2 before it came out, I don't think it's a spoiler. I think it's obvious.
Yeah, it is something that's very out there.
I understand you thinking it's a big deal that you know it, but with Trey, I would say the knowledge you have is probably average to what anyone who picked up Last of Us 2 on release knew, because it was just obvious from trailers, so everyone knew that was coming when the game came out, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't feel upset about it.
I really like how the hunters in the game just kind of see Joel as a crazy man. They just directly think he's just this fucking insane person. And I guess he would be, because he did kill a lot of people and stuff. But it's funny seeing how they see his actions, because I don't know, I thought it was super funny. And I like how when you play as Ellie, eventually they start focusing on her a lot too, because they just see her taking out all these people, and they get really angry at her and just focus on her kind of for a little while, and just even almost forget about Joel. And I thought it was super cool to see Ellie being like, Ellie obviously is like a lot better at doing things over time because she was just Joel. And I just think I still think it's just funny that they're just both seen as complete psychopaths. Yeah, I had a lot of fun with the game. I think the ending was really good. Well, I mean, obviously it's not the end because of the second game, but I thought it was good. Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to play Last of Us 2 at some point. I'm not gonna play it like immediately, but I thought it was fun. I did beat Left Behind, which is the DLC. I don't have that much to say about it. I did think it was kind of fun to play again, like just play more of it. I fucked up when I was playing it in the sense that like I was at a point that was like very close to the end but wasn't quite the end, so I was just like not careful with my resources because I just like I felt like I had enough, so I was just like, I was just kind of like being a way more aggressive than I should have been. And like even when I was playing the game, like the regular game, I would sometimes kind of be that way a little bit more so when when like Ellie was in trouble in the story or when Joel was in trouble in the story. I would feel the like haste to like I shouldn't waste time and I should get there quickly, even though I don't actually have to like rush. Like, they're not gonna actually die if I take too long. But
you're getting into the like. It sounds like you were really like getting into the shoes of the game, right? Where like you're playing it like you should be, if that makes sense, based on like what like you're not just stomping around, right? You're like being careful and cautious and sneaking around, even when like it's reasonable that there's no enemies around, but you're still like you don't know that for sure, right? Like or that person is in danger, I'll go help them even though there's no actual time limit, right? Like
yeah, I think the game is designed in a way where, especially your first time through, if you don't know everything coming, if you don't play like that, you will actually get the shit beat out of you. Like, especially even just if it's but it's your first time playing through the game, if you're not careful 24/7, you will just die a billion times. Especially because...
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, especially something I think that's really interesting is not all the infected, but the infected that have fully turned into infected, the clickers, kill you in one shot. So if you're not careful fighting clickers, you're fucked. Because they actually just one-shot you. Which is super good, by the way. Like, I love.
I think, oh, what the fuck was it? Damn it. I forgot what I was going to say. Fuck. I mean, I guess I'll talk about something else that I wanted to bring up was just, like, I really like the sections where I'm playing as Ellie, because, like, you have to play even more carefully, because she's just not as strong as Joel. Like, with Joel, you can just, like, fucking box the fucking infected, or, like, at least some of them. But, like, Ellie can't just win in a melee fight against an infected. Like, Joel will always win if he's, like, close enough and it's one-on-one. But Ellie won't win, so, like, like, you can't be reckless, like, at all in that sense. And it was really fun and, like, challenging when you, like, play as her later in the game. I don't know, I just had a lot of fun with it. So I'm looking forward to playing the second game.
What did you think of the backpack as a mechanic? Because I think that's actually one of the best parts of the game is how, like, the backpack feels to use, where, like, it does feel like an actual backpack on this guy's back that you have to open and rifle through and pick things out of, and you put things into it to actually go into and craft out of. I like the backpack a lot, but I'm curious what you think of it.
Yeah, I mean, I do like how, like, it's limited on how much you can carry, because there were points in the game where I had, like, 3 medical kits or whatever, or I had, like, multiple smoke bombs. But I had to use them so that I can craft, like, I can make more of them.
Free up the space, yeah. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, since there's a limit of 3 of how much you can carry for something. So if, like, I have enough to make another like kit, I should consider using the one that I have now. Or, like, if I, like, sometimes, like, there's an example of, like, I wouldn't make, like, a bunch of smoke bombs usually, but because I have so much like sugar and explosives, I can't pick up a sugar thing that I found. So then I'll make a smoke bomb so that I can pick up that sugar that I found. So it's a really good way of making me like actually use the stuff I have, because like in games with consumable items, I tend not to use them, but in Last of Us, I will use them. Like, it wasn't so hard that like I always needed to use everything, but like just how the mechanics were, I just like had to use more stuff. And it definitely felt pretty good in like the later parts of the game where I could just like I could use a bunch of shit that I built up throughout the entire game, because I'm not the type to like waste my stuff usually. So I don't know, being more psychopathic with my stuff when I knew it was the end in at least in the main story, it was really fun. And I mean, it was still difficult because there were so many people, so like even if I was just like using stuff, I would still get fucked up, but with the smoke bombs especially, I think that's when I started like really like using those.
One of the things I like about the backpack isn't just like being limited in space, it's how long it actually takes you to cycle through things, so that like even changing weapons in combat, right, isn't something that you can just do, right? You can't like be in the middle of a gunfight, be out of ammo in one gun, and switch to another. You have to actually go take cover and like sit down and pull out your backpack, right? And like go through it and find what you're looking for, if that makes sense. And I think that's something that makes that is like something that isn't right, because there's like a lot of games where, and even this aspect is in other games too, but I don't think to the same extent, where like, the idea of having limited inventory space, but specifically that like if I'm using a gun that I have set, like if I'm using a revolver and I need to switch to like my shotgun, I have to switch over like 3 sets of things in the backpack, and I actually have to go find a spot, take cover to switch guns, instead of like in Halo, right? You can only carry 2 guns, but you can just pull out the other gun whenever you want, right? There are a lot of other games you can just switch weapons right away. There's like a hotkey for it, but the fact that you have to cycle through the backpack, I think makes the and like sometimes if it's like your second gun on like your right thing, you have to like switch over to it, and then you have to go down and switch from one to the other, so it ends up like, you know what I mean? I think it works super well.
Yeah. I don't know, I thought I really enjoyed playing. When you played, did you tend to like read all of the notes or like the letters or like all the things you found, or did you not?
Yeah, I read them.
I was just wondering, because like I would read some of them and like engage with some of them, but I wouldn't engage with all of them because there's so many of them, and some of us like I didn't really care that much about like what's with some of them. So I was just wondering if you tended to read like all of them, or did you just like do some?
I read them, but I don't always like super care about them, because a lot of them are just like super flavor text, So
yeah, Vindy, you can go now.
So I didn't finish anything this last week. I started a bunch of stuff, and I'm in the middle of a bunch of stuff, but I didn't finish anything. And I'm gonna go ahead and say, that instead, what I'm gonna do is my weekly roundup's gonna be about COVID, because fuck it.
Sorry, go ahead. That's just gonna look really funny on the Excel doc that compiles all of our stuff.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, last I checked, it was a while ago, had a mistake where it actually listed me as having talked about Baki instead of you, and like it just actually swapped our stuff. So, real quick, just quickly mentioning it for whoever for that to be a fix. But it's just like funny looking backwards, like, oh yeah, you talked about fucking COVID. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
I got COVID. And I made it a lot worse for myself. And people are going to be really upset hearing this. But you know what? Fuck you. I couldn't just, like, play it safe, right? But I started feeling bad, like, Sunday. And or Sunday. Was it Sunday? No, it was Monday I started feeling bad. And I thought, like, maybe I should go get tested. But I wasn't sure because I thought it was just a cold. And I was at work, and I decided to just work my shift and not be a baby. And I switched, like, I put a mask on because I decided, because I was sick, either way I should wear a mask. But I unless I knew I had COVID, I couldn't really just leave my shift, right? Especially because my work has, like, a policy where if you leave in the middle of a shift, you have to go get a doctor's note, and I can't just go pay for a doctor's visit in case I don't have COVID. So, I finished out my shift, and then I went to class the next day, and then I was gonna get tested, fuck. Sorry, I just lost $5 in a bet. I had bet on the football game that was going on right now, and I should have won. By all accounts, there's no shot I should have lost, but I actually fucking did, and I'm actually kind of baby mauling about it, but it's fine. So then, like, I went, and I was really sick. I thought it was just a cold, though, right? Like, I even said it on Twitter when I said I had COVID. I was like, I really didn't think it was COVID because, like, it's really weird having the disease that, like, has been the talk of the town for 2 years now, right? Like, everyone's talking about COVID all the time, and, like, how bad it is, and then, like, so I was, I got it, and, like, I didn't even think I had it, because I was sick, but I didn't think I was that sick, so I was like, oh, well, there's no shot it's COVID, and then I went and got tested, and they told me I had COVID, and it's like, oh my God. I'm in quarantine from 10 days from when I got my positive test, which was, like, Wednesday. So I'm, like, quarantined until, like, next weekend. And, like, I have some school stuff I can do, but it's not a lot. And, like, I'm not going to class, and I'm not going to work. So I'm going to go fucking stir crazy this next week. Mm-hmm. So that was fucking insane. It was fucking, so I mean, I've been sick, don't get me wrong. Like, I've had a fever for sure, had a cough. Weirdly enough, the big thing that I was talking about, like, with, like, COVID symptoms, right, was the loss of sense of taste and smell. I haven't had that at all. But it's mainly been, a cough, a fever, and, like, a lot of congestion. And so that was something. And so, like, yeah, I mean, I'm going to have a bunch of shit that I finish this next week. Like, I got a book series, and I have read, like, 400 pages of the first book, but it's, like, a 1,200 page book. So who knows if I'll finish that by next week. I started watching Star Wars, but I only watched one movie. I've been watching other shit, playing some games. Like, I have so much free time that I kind of hate it. Because I'm just going to be, like, fucking free. And, like, I am sick, but
too
also
scared
like
to get to Rise of Skywalker and admit it's good. That's why.
That's not going to happen. But it's just, like, it's weird having COVID after everyone talked about it, right? For, like, a billion years is, like, this, like, fucking scary thing that, oh my God, everyone's so scared of COVID. And it's like, I get it. And it's like, I just kind of, and I mean, obviously I probably, I don't know, but I assume I have, like, Omicron, right, which is less intense, and I'm vaccinated. But it's just a weird feeling, like, that first day when I was sitting in my apartment, I was like, man, I have the fucking thing that everyone's been scared of for the last 2 years. It's fucking inside me right now. You know what I mean? Like, I am a fucking menace to society. I could just go out and fucking...
The fact that you haven't... if you went out, you would be a menace, yes, but you're good. You're staying inside. You're being
or
good.
I could, I also, just the jokes about it. Like, I keep telling people when I'm talking to them, if they say anything mean, look, you can't say anything mean to me. I'm dying of COVID. This could be the last time you talk to me. And then the last thing you said was something mean. So people are kind of done with my bullshit. But yeah, I mean, it's weird, and I'm sick, but I think I'm getting better. Today I felt better. So hopefully I get better so I can stream, because I have to do 2 YouTube videos and stream twice next week since I didn't do it this week. And I was going to do it with COVID, but both days I was going to do it, I just woke up so sick. I was like, I'm not doing it today.
Mm-hmm.
Sad.
I have one question for you.
Yes.
I know you don't do number scores anymore, but what would you score COVID?
I would say,
you don't have to actually answer. I was just being a piece of
No,
shit.
I want to answer this based off, I'm trying to figure out, I'm going to answer it based off the severity of the sickness, if that makes sense.
For you
right?
personally, not like, because if we're talking like just generally, like it's a 0 out of 10. You literally fuck society COVID, like for the last 2 years. Like,
right.
Thank you.
But I'm talking, so 10 is like the sickest I've ever been, and 1 is like, I
You're
stubbed
fine.
my toe.
You're basically fine. 0 is like normal, right? You're not sick at all. Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
I'd say a 6.
Okay, so pretty
overall,
bad, but like on the bad side, but not
maybe a 7. And the reason I say that is because, like, I definitely made it worse for myself because I was going to class and going to work. And
you should have been resting.
And
right?
I was right, but I didn't know I had COVID. I thought I just had a cold. And if I just have a cold, I should be going to work. I need the money. I should be going to class. I can't get behind. My laundry needs to get done. You know what I mean? So I was doing things because I didn't know I had COVID. And then once I had COVID, it was like this weight was off my shoulders where it's like, oh my God, if I need to take a nap or I need to sleep for 12 hours, I can actually rest. Because like COVID's like the one thing where if you have it, people are going to be okay with you just like not doing anything. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it was like I definitely made it a little bit worse for myself.
You're making it worse for yourself right now.
No, I mean, I made it worse. Well, probably not because I think I'm mostly over it. But when I was like first getting it, I definitely made myself a lot sicker by like being at work and like that day I worked when I had it and I felt sick. I thought I was gonna die by the end of my shift. I felt so terrible. But that was not the worst. The worst was a couple days ago. I definitely had like a really high fever and I had chills really bad. But besides that, I think I'm fine. So yeah, I'd say like a 6. Like I was sick. I was definitely sick as shit. But I wouldn't say I like felt I was gonna die. I didn't feel like I needed to go to the doctor's office. I just took some Dayquil, took some ibuprofen, and carried along my merry little way.
Well, you didn't handle it as well as Trump did. So, L.
Because DNA is just not USA, I guess.
Yeah, my DNA is not USA, so I cannot handle it like he did, the king. I'm sorry.
I guess you were Mexican all along.
Oh my God. All right, anyway. So I was going to talk about Zelda games, I think, and I'm not anymore because so back in November-ish.
You also got COVID.
Yeah, no. I was gonna make a joke earlier about how like it's a contest between me or Nun to see who gets it and who becomes the Last of Us. Who's doesn't have COVID.
I'm gonna give y'all COVID through the computer screens.
Yeah, if we both get sick, we know who to blame. Anyway,
shouldn't have done a podcast with a man in quarantine.
So back around November, or maybe it was October, but I remember Vindy, you DM'd me and you're like, "Hey, some friends of mine are interested in doing D&D. Would you be interested?" And I'm like, yes, yeah. And, which is funny because now Vindy's so fucking busy that, like, we wrote his character out of the game, so I'm in a D&D game with a bunch of, not that they're cool people, but, like, when I think of, they're, like, Vindy's friends, right? Like, not necessarily, you know, like, not that I'm not friendly with them.
Like, it's like, my older brother, a guy who I ushered at his wedding over the summer, my literal best friend,
Renru, who is also, like, Renru's only, like, because he comments on the Weeb Club, right? So, you know, anyway, sorry, I interrupted you as you were listening.
No, but yeah, and then like 2 other really good friends of mine. So like,
right, and so I vaguely know of them at best overall, and I know them better now, and that we're still like I'm still in the group, even though Vindy's not, which I just think is funny. But anyway, so the DM mentions, hey, Critical Role started their 3rd campaign recently. It's a really good example of D&D, and you guys should catch up. And I was like, I don't know, they're 4-hour episodes. It's really long. I don't know if I have time. And what the reason I've changed is because because I caught up. So basically how they do it is every Thursday they stream it and then the VOD comes out on Monday. So I've been catching up to the VODs, but I actually did catch the last, it's Saturday right now. So I actually did watch the VOD live or the stream live last time. So I'm caught up to campaign 3 completely. I think what specifically changed because basically Critical Role, it is a bunch of voice actors, like professional voice actors, like to list off the main core members. Matt Mercer is the DM, Laura Bailey, Taliesin Jaff, Ashley Johnson, you guys both know because she voiced Ellie in The Last of Us. Liam O'Brien, Mercer Ray, Sam Riegel, and Travis Willingham. So like, and see, I thought it was funny because I was like looking them up and it's like Laura Bailey, I know she fucking did Dragon. She was Kid Trunks in Dragon Ball. Like I know her, like, you know, she's just like Funimation old guard in my brain.
She's also, by the way, I could be wrong. Yeah, she's also in Last of Us Part 2, actually.
Oh yeah, that's right. But you know, so like, it was funny going.
She's
through
also
their...
Kushina, apparently.
Yeah, no, it was funny going through the list because like Matt Mercer voices Trafalgar Law in One Piece, and I was like, hey, I know Trafalgar Law, and then I stop and I'm like, wait. Aside from maybe like a clip or 2 on YouTube, I've only ever heard Hiroshi Kamiya as Trafalgar Law or read the manga, so I don't actually know Matt Mercer's Trafalgar Law, so I'm like, wait, shit, never mind. So that was kind of funny just going through, like, recognizing the character but not actually knowing their performance. And so yeah, like they're all notable voice actors, and basically like I've been going through interviews, the Between the Sheets interviews, and like they talked, formation of Critical Role came up where they just like got into playing D&D, and then they like are we gonna, and then they eventually decided to stream it after some like a lot of discussion, and it became like the most subscribed channel to a channel on Twitch or something like that, like at one point.
No,
at one point, no point,
no.
Or something absurd.
It made,
at least on one.
I know. So it's
record.
made the most. So when all the Twitch money leaked recently,
okay.
I'm pretty sure Critical Role was 1 or 2. It was one of those two.
I've heard it was like the most in something on Twitch, and I just don't remember.
It might be the most followed. I know for a fact it's not.
Followed.
At no point has been the most subscribed to channel, because Ninja won that bet way back in the Fortnite days.
That's
and then
right.
Ludwig took it from him last year. So
okay, I think it was probably the most followed channel. So I'm bringing it up, but it's like it's a really popular thing, and if people, but it's also like I don't know, at least like considering the length of it, like because they just started campaign 3. Both campaigns 1 and 2 were over 100 episodes long, and again, the average length of an individual episode is 4 hours. So it's like if you spend 1 hour a day, it will literally take you over a year to get through one campaign, right? Like it's a lot. But I also understand why it's popular, because like it's really fucking good. Like Matt Mercer's a great DM. They're all voice actors, so they have lots of like charisma, and they're able to do like character voices. Like Matt Mercer can play all these characters. Like I fucking hate Matt Mercer. Because he just will like fucking like introduce an NPC. Like they'll just stop someone on the street and he'll give them a full house description and a unique voice. And I'm like, this is a character you've had in your brain for a while. No, did you just come up with this character like on the fucking spot? And like he's even talked to like he's faking it, like he's a DM, right? Like he's going by the seat of his pants in a lot of scenarios, but like it doesn't show at all. So that's why I say I hate him, because he's fucking brilliant with the DMing and stuff. And they play off each other really well. The chemistry is great. I'm enjoying the cast of campaign 3 so far. And they're like there's even the straight men are still really good, and the lots of weirdos, and like they're a weird party, but I'm just really digging it. But like I think what really like clicked with me, and why I wanted to talk about it this week, was because I've started the Between the Sheets interviews, which are over 3 years old at this point, but they're just like really personal interviews with like how they got like their just general like life trajectory, and how they from being young to starting Critical Role. And especially the Matt Mercer one, fucking made me cry multiple times and kind of wrecked me. And cause like, I don't know, he's just like a cool guy. He talked a lot about like, he like his like very open about his vulnerability. Like he grew up poor. He deals with imposter syndrome and, body dysmorphia, where he just kind of like just doesn't like the way he looks at all. And he'll either like avoid mirrors or pictures of himself, or he'll like hyperfixate on them and focus on the flaws. Like he's just like, but he was just really open about it. And like, I don't know, that episode, like hearing him talk about it, and just like, I don't know, it was a really good interview, and I would honestly like recommend it. Just like I don't know, it was interesting. And like in general, like I think what getting into Critical Role now is making me feel, it's reminding me of when I got into the PCP, because when I started watching then Digibro and all these other creators, and I got really into their content and stuff. Like, here's this group of friends who, from my perspective, like, I was around their ages, but they felt older than me, because, like, they'd been doing YouTube for a while, they were friends for a while, because they'd been doing, like, the My Little Pony stuff, when I had just started YouTube around that time, because of, B. And, so here's this bunch of creatives doing stuff together, being cool, making stuff that I liked. And now with Critical Role, like, now I'm starting to get into it, and I'm having that feeling again. I realize it's because, like, oh, well, I grew up, I got older, I fell off of the PCP, because, they're basically the same. Like, they're in the same position as they were a few years ago, more or less, right? Like, I mean, the group fell apart, but individually, like, I mean, they're different positions, sure, but, where now the Critical Role group, they're adults, right, who are successful, and they're older than me, like, so I just realized, and they're a bunch of creatives who are just together and being friends, and it's like, so I realized, like, oh, I think it has a kind of similar appeal to me, where it's like, I followed the PCP really hard for, like, over a year, and I fell off of them, and now, like, Critical Role is kind of scratching that same itch that I had, in a sense, and, yeah, even, like, I mean, I definitely think, I don't know, if you're interested in D&D, it's probably worth a look, like, and I guess as far as like there is actually something coming out that I'm interested in because I think it might be a good way to like sort of like because so here's how like fucking like I don't know, it's amazing. So there's a show coming to Amazon Prime at the end of the month called The Legends of Vox Machina, which is a animated series adaptation of their first campaign. So these fucking guys,
oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, they literally like they just did a D&D campaign, they finished it, and now it's becoming a fucking animated series. Like I just watched one of the recent videos they put out about it where they talk about the voice cast because obviously during the campaign, like I mean, and they're still like for the most part they're still voicing their characters again in the animated series. But Matt Mercer is no longer voicing literally everybody else as the DM. So they were talking about like all the voice actors they were bringing in to voice all of these characters that he made, but now they're bringing to life in new ways, basically. So yeah, like I'm kind of interested in watching it because I don't really know anything about the group, the Vox Machina campaign, because like I've heard some things, I know of some character deaths because like the one like iffy part about the interviews is that they bring up their characters that they're playing and the ones they have played. Like once or twice, and I don't know these people. I'm only like these interviews are like 3 years old, and I've only watched campaign 3, which is very recent. So I haven't attached like character to face and name, if that makes sense. Except for the recent stuff, but yeah, no, I'm interested in Vox Machina because like here's these nerds who got to make a show about something they like, because that's the thing, they're just like they're friends who are playing D&D and they happen to be able to like monetize it and make good content out of it, and like they still love it, and they're still just like friends playing D&D. Like that core is still there, which I think is it's good. And so I don't know. I'll probably talk about Vox Machina at some point either after it finishes or just to give my thoughts on it as a show, because like it's not critical. It's not the Critical Role like them at the table and stuff. It's actually like a piece of media, and it's on that can hopefully stand on its own. But I don't know. I'm curious about it, and yeah, I like it's long, but if you're like I said interested in D&D, I think it's worth catching up to because like I don't know, I'm really interested in seeing where it goes, and that like they're just good, like they understand stories, they're professionals, right? So here's D&D, like they just have everything you need to like have like the best possible D&D campaign. Charismatic people who know characters and writing and are just like having fun. Like it's just kind of a perfect storm. Like it kind of makes sense as to why it's like so big. And I don't know, it's pretty cool. I like it. So yeah. What about next week? I mean, Vindy, you already mentioned Star Wars.
Or I'll talk about the book I'm reading, or maybe a game I play.
I will probably talk about Monogatari because I think I will be all finished by next week. Maybe. And if not, I still have the Zelda games to fall back on.
I don't know what I'm going to talk about, so
okay.
I mean, I'm
unfortunate.
Not gonna guarantee something. Things I'm planning on doing, but I'm not going to say that I'll finish them. So
okay. All right. I'll see you all next week, and thank you for listening.
Adios.
Thank you for listening.